Hey guys, welcome to another episode of For People Like You. This is the podcast, the channel, the space where we love to come together and talk about faith, inspiration, have conversations about life and all of those kinds of things. And this is a space for you and for us to be able to talk about it and have a great time. And today we're going to be answering your questions that you might have sent in through Instagram or on a comment or on one of our channels. And so today it's going to be fun. It's going to be a shorter conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more edgy, maybe not.
No.
It's going to be a good time.
Anything could happen. Anything could happen.
That's right.
Okay, so like Jay said, this is answering your questions. We're answering your questions.
Yeah.
We did a little Ask Me a Question thing on Instagram, and we're just going to talk about a bunch of different stuff. Stuff about God, stuff about culture,
Yeah.
stuff about family, therapy, you know, parenting, marriage, all of it. And
For
so
sure.
whether
and if
you're...
you hate the question, then it's your fault, right?
Yeah, if you hate the question...
If this episode is terrible... Just kidding.
If this episode is terrible, there's always another episode coming.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, if you're on a drive, in the car, if you are taking a run or a walk as I do.
Yeah, there you go.
Wherever you find yourself. Enjoy. Okay.
Let's go.
Get
First
into
question.
it. Let's get into it. Okay. First question is this. Jason, can you talk about longevity and faithfulness to Jesus despite disappointments?
Yeah, and I think this is questions for both of us,
Deep.
not
We're
just
coming
me.
in deep.
I know.
Should I have done something more lighthearted first? Wait, should I do something else? Okay.
Yeah, maybe lighthearted. I don't know.
Okay, let's see.
We'll come back to that question.
Okay, well, this is not a lighthearted one because they were all kind of deep. You guys really want the deep stuff. But this one, okay, I think this is lighthearted. Biggest lessons you've learned transitioning from just the two of you to a family of 3 and now a family of 4. Biggest lessons you've learned.
Oh, man. I think biggest lessons for me anyway would be don't ever expect a clean house.
Did you just say don't ever expect?
Maybe I'm thinking about donuts, so that might be why.
You have a
but I
donut
said don't always expect a clean house.
Oh, is that a dig at me?
No. This is a dig at the kids because they trash our house every single day.
True.
And me being, maybe OCD or organized or wanting a clean space all the time, that is just an expectation I have to throw out the window and try to navigate, I think outside of that too, it's just being so flexible. Anything can happen. You could wake up one day expecting that day to be a certain way, and then the kids wake up sick, and you're like, well, my whole day is gone now. It's like you're always having to be on your toes and all that. Some of the most fun moments for sure. But I think those types of adjustments where you can have plans, but get ready for those to change real quick.
That's true. Yeah, you do like to be able to control your environment.
Absolutely.
And I am more of a go with the flow type of girl. So would you say that I am?
No, I think that we're both. I think that we're both.
Your face.
Yeah, I'm like.
You were like. What do I do if I disagree?
Yeah, no, I think we've switched. When we were dating, I was super rigid, like to a fault almost, and then you were always telling me to be a wet noodle, to be flexible. I feel like I'm in that, and we've just rubbed off on each other a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think for sure, we both have, a certain degree of control that we want to be able to have with our lives, which is natural. It's not like a horrible point, but yeah,
I will agree to disagree.
Okay. Well, what's your response to that? What's something, the adjustments from, us being married and then to one kid and then now 2?
Well, first, as you were talking about how, you want to keep the house clean and like kind of control the environment, I immediately thought about this morning, Dove had a biscuit. And I gave her a biscuit to eat at her little table in our dining room. And she walked to the kitchen and crumbled it in her hands. And it spilled all over the carpet. And within 5 seconds, you had the vacuum.
Not 5 seconds, but at least within 2 minutes.
Within 2 minutes, she's crumbling.
Yeah.
You're vacuuming.
I'm pushing her out of the way. I'm like, get out the way. I'm like slapping the biscuit out of her hand, trying to vacuum every little crumb.
And I was sitting here and I was just like, you do you. So that's where I feel like I am go with the flow, because to me, I'm like, you know what? this is the season of life they're in. They're going to crumble biscuits. I'm going to wait till all the crumbling's done.
Yeah.
And then we'll follow back up.
But there's always going to be something else to do. I need to do it in the moment, because if I don't do it then,
but your brain, it's like your brain wouldn't even let you.
No.
Another example. Last night, our house came.
This is bad. Yeah.
Our house.
I will say this was not the plan. It
not your finest hour.
Surprised me too. Anyways,
surprised
continue.
us all.
Yes.
I just know that we went out to take a walk with our dog.
Yep.
And then I didn't see you till this morning. And here's why. Because our house came with this.
It's like a cactus tree. I don't even know what it is.
If you know what a cactus, it almost looks like it's from Joshua Tree, but we live in Florida. So somehow the previous owners, they were into prickly plants. Like there was all kinds of
like every plant
plants.
Could kill you out here. It was crazy.
Basically. Yeah. So with 2 babies, we were like, these can't stay. Yeah. So anyway, our house has had all these cactuses, which is very random. Cacti. Oh, cacti.
Yeah, cacti.
Okay. Our house has had numerous cacti. And there was one cacti left. It was this big cactus. Go.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh my gosh.
I just don't want somebody to roast you online because of that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. There was one big cactus tree left.
Yes.
There's one big cactus tree left.
Yeah.
And we walked out last night. I don't know why I have the giggles now. Okay. I walked out last night and it was cut. What happened to it?
Yeah, like rotted from the inside, I guess, because all the rain or something. Maybe there was like bugs that got into it, but it rotted from the inside, so it's weaker. And I watched it on our camera, and it like fell down just randomly. Like wind came and it just blew it down. And so I saw it when we had friends over. Obviously, I can't do anything about it then.
Oh, so you were going crazy throughout the dinner.
It was killing me because I'm like, oh, I need to take care of that.
Yeah,
take care of our lawn.
It was messy.
So I went to go get the branches that were broken and cut those off and put those on the pile.
We left to go walk our dog.
Yes.
So we went to walk our dog, and you asked me, you were going to walk, honey, and you were like, babe, will you come with me? I was like, no, I'm going to stay inside unless you want me to go with you. You were like, of course I want you to go with me. Come with me. Let's walk together. I was like, okay, fine. So I get the leash. We go out with honey. You're like, give me 1 second. Let me just take a look at this boat.
Like, not going to take long at all.
Let me take a look at the tree. And I was like, I'll see you tomorrow, because I know that you're going to get hyperfixated on this and you're going to do this for an hour. And
I will say it took every yard tool that I had available that would cut something.
I don't even know the story.
I had to saw the bottom off, and it just was a pain to do. It took me probably an hour to do it.
And what time was this at?
And this was at like 11:50, and I got done at like maybe 12:30.
In the dark of night, you're sawing a cactus tree by yourself.
I had to get to the point where I had to use ratchet traps to like pull it to saw. It was this whole thing. Not happy with it, but
supposedly there are coyotes.
I'm not worried about coyotes. We're good.
Which is crazy. Like, if you've been wondering if Florida is the Wild West,
it is.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
There are all kinds of creatures and 4-legged people around.
That's right. All right, let's jump into the next question, because this is going to be one of our longest episodes so far.
Okay, so I asked you, biggest lesson you learned transitioning from a family of 2 to a family of 3 and 4. Okay, you can ask let's do it back and forth. Yeah.
Here we go. This one is a lifestyle question.
If you need to reword the question, just reword it.
Here's a good one for you. Talk about motherhood. You know, I think a lot of moms, this person wrote in that they're struggling with not feeling like they're doing enough. And I don't know if that necessarily means like, I feel like I'm not doing enough with my kids, or not doing enough for myself, or whatever. Probably it could be in all those areas. Yeah. But talk a little bit about motherhood and maybe that comparison trap and some of those things that comes with feeling like you're not doing enough.
So that was her question. Okay. So I think, how would I answer that? I mean, constantly feeling like you're not doing enough. I think for me personally, what I'm learning right now is that I just need grace for today. I can't get caught up in what Nara Smith is doing, on TikTok. I can't make Cheez-Its from scratch. I'm not her. I'm not that girl.
Right.
I don't even think I own a waffle maker. I'm not the one that is waking up and making Mickey Mouse shaped pancakes from scratch in the morning before my son goes to school. I want to be her so bad. Yeah. But that's just not me.
And you'll make a fruit rainbow for our kids, which is awesome.
I will.
You do what you can.
Yeah, I really copied Meghan Markle, which we won't get into that. But anyway, so all I can do is be the best me I could be. And if I stay healthy as like the individual, before I had Truth and Dove, I was just B. Yeah. I was my own person. And as long as I am staying the healthiest version of myself I can be, I will be the best mom to my kids that I can be. And on the days that I don't feel like I'm doing enough, they're usually the days that I see what other people are doing. Yeah. And I don't think we were created to know. Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't think we were created to know what everyone is doing and how they're parenting, what their resources are, what their bandwidth is. Right. We're just called to tend to our lawn, to our people, to our family. Sure. And so maybe someone has the capacity to cook everything from scratch every day. I don't have that capacity. But maybe there are some days where I do, and someone else is like, all I can do is fast food, and I feel like a horrible mom. And those are the days usually that you're scrolling through IG or TikTok, and you're seeing what that other mom did that day. And that, like, internet is not reality. No. I know we all say it, but it's just true. I feel like my mental health is the best when I'm not scrolling. Right. Like when I'm not doom scrolling, when I'm not on the internet, when I'm a little more pulled back from Instagram and TikTok. That's where I feel like I'm the most secure in myself as a mom. Right. So if you feel like you're not doing enough as a mom, I would just remember that every day you have grace for that day, and you're the mom that God's called to your kids. So as long as you're doing your very best to keep growing personally and staying healthy, mentally, emotionally, spiritually for your kids, like you're doing an amazing job. Yeah. Don't get lost in the scroll. Stay focused on the family you're called to, and then God will equip you with the rest.
That's great.
So yeah, let me ask you, here's a question. This person just says in all caps, burnout. Yeah. I don't know if that's like in life.
Maybe they're just saying that they're burning out.
Yeah. I think it could be like a young adult. It could be a parent. It could be someone who's married, but they just want to hear your reaction to just feeling burned out in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, burnout's a very layered topic. So, without getting too much into the weeds of it, I think at its core, burnout is doing more than maybe what you're capable of right now. If I could just like have there's deeper definitions to it, and there's like, I think physical burnout, emotional burnout, spiritual burnout, financial burnout. There's a lot of different areas, but at large, I think burnout is basically just trying to do something that you don't have the capacity to do. Right. That doesn't mean you won't always have it, but for right now, you don't have the capacity for it. In, church and in Bible and spiritual maturity, we would call that grace. You don't have a grace for it. God is not giving you the strength or maybe that supernatural ability to do what you're trying to do. Yeah. And so I think for, whoever this person is, or maybe whoever's dealing with burnout, I think ask yourself, am I supposed to be doing what I'm trying to do? Is this a season for it? Is it necessary? Is it worth it? Like I think for a lot of things, life will be hard, and, you kind of have to choose your hard, but is what you're doing worth it? On that return, on the other side of that, is there fulfillment, or is it just draining? Is it just something you have to do, or is it something that you're choosing to do? I think the best way to combat burnout, is to first make sure that like you're walking in step in obedience with God, because anything outside of that and outside of that lane that God's called you to be in, you will be burned out. It's not a matter of if, but when. So I think that's the first and foremost thing. And obviously if you're someone who doesn't have a relationship or believes in Jesus, and you're watching or listening to this, then that would be a hard thing to live by or follow or understand. I think if that is you, that would be my encouragement, is like, there is a plan and purpose that God has created all of us for. And if we try to do something outside of that, you're now taking on all of that pressure and weight by yourself. But if you step into God's purpose, then He's carrying you, He's helping you, He's giving you the strength and the ability to do it. That's right, yeah. And so I think that's the most important thing when it comes to burnout. Yeah. Because if you are doing something that God's called you to do, it doesn't mean it's going to be easier. But you will get through it, and you will get past it. I think another thing with it, this will be the last thing I'll mention with it, but I think the other thing with burnout is just making sure you're healthy. Yeah. Like as simple as, are you getting enough sleep? Yeah. Do you have healthy boundaries and rhythms in your life? Is work coming home with you? You know, all those kinds of things I think will lead to burnout. Yeah. If you don't have healthy boundaries, then then, you're not saying no enough. I think no is one of the most powerful words that you can have, because whatever you say yes to, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah.
And so you have to get comfortable with saying no to certain things. You don't have to do everything. You can't do everything. Yeah. So I think have boundaries and healthy rhythms in your life. Otherwise, you will be burned out.
Yeah, absolutely. Mic drop.
All right, next question. Here we go.
I follow that up?
No, I think this is a good one. There's been this, I wouldn't call it a trend because I don't think it's a trend, but there's maybe been this more awareness around therapy and counseling and maybe even life coaching, that sort of thing. And this is something that we both have done. This is something that you're currently doing. You just have a lot more experience in it than I do, and probably better experiences in it than I have had. So for this person, all they put is healing in therapy. So maybe just talk a little bit about the importance of it, maybe some of the misconceptions of it. Yeah. Because I know from a guy's perspective, there's not a lot of guys that do therapy. Yeah. And it's almost like a sign of weakness. And so any guys who go to therapy, more often than not, they're going when things are falling apart, they're at rock bottom. Whereas therapy is really meant to be like preventative, And if you do these check-ins the same way that you change oil in a car, you're not going to have to do this massive overhaul of life when the engine blows up, So talk a little bit about that and maybe some misconceptions and the importance of therapy and how it's provided healing in different areas, or how it can.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to open up saying is that we're not experts really at any of this. And so I think it's always good to I was just thinking as you were talking just now before answering the question on burnout about how, we're not doing a Q&A because we feel like we're experts in any area. We're learning and we're growing, and we're taking you on the journey with us through this podcast. So I just wanted to say that, because sometimes these Q&As and stuff, sometimes when influencers do them, it can feel like, you're making yourself an expert that nobody made you an expert of, And so these are just kind of,
it's our perspective.
What we're learning. And so when it comes to healing and therapy, I can only speak to my personal experience.
Sure.
I didn't start therapy until my life was on fire. Yeah. And I'm sure I could have gone sooner. But one thing that probably kept me for a while was just the financial commitment, the time commitment, the emotional commitment, because your therapy session, you don't just start it and then it ends and you're like, cool, that was done. It almost sits with you the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so you have to be ready to know I'm opening up some emotional wounds that I probably have never processed in my entire life. And am I ready to sit with this in this season of my life? I don't think all seasons of your life you need to be in therapy. I do think that, like you said, checkup, maintenance is good, but I everybody has different needs, but I don't find that I need it every single week. Right. I'm sure if I was, I'd be like, oh, this is nice, but I'm not doing that and I'm okay, Right. And so I think that when it comes to healing and therapy, they are connected. Yeah. You are going to, depending on your therapist, you will get out of therapy what you put in, and you will leave therapy a more healed version of yourself as long as you're open to it.
That's good.
So my first session with my first therapist, I remember just having a wall up. And I was in a really hard, broken season. And I went into the therapy session skeptical of her, skeptical of therapy, skeptical of, the whole thing. And I got out what I put in, which wasn't a lot that first session. And then by the end of the session, of course, I was in tears. And I was just saying things like, I don't know why I'm crying right now, whatever. Yeah, and of course, she's like, you're the exact client that I love, Yeah. And by the end of that season of being with her as my therapist, it transformed my whole life in a really bad, hard season. And my therapist now, I have a new therapist, and we meet just occasionally. We don't meet every single week. But I came into meeting with him. He was a personal recommendation from a friend. And that also just shifted my openness, because he wasn't just like someone from Adam that I'd never met. Right. So it's been an amazing experience. So I would say if you want to start therapy, look into what your insurance covers. Do something that's affordable for you. Sometimes you need to just have a listening ear. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, bougie therapist that, is in your area, you just sometimes need a third party who's objective that can just hear you out.
Right.
And you'll be amazed at how that just makes you feel free, just to like be in a safe space. And then go from there. You'll figure out what you need, who you need, but you will, I think, be better for it.
Yeah.
You know?
ChatGPT is $20 a month.
Oh my gosh. I know. Oh my
Act
gosh.
as a therapist.
People,
and then
people are doing that. Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's, you know, I wouldn't like put my life in the hands of AI.
Never. No. Yeah.
But it can help in a pinch.
Okay, moving on. It can help in a pinch.
All right, this should be the last one.
It's going to die in a second.
Yes, so is mine.
Oh no. Okay, so
we got time for one more.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is.
Should I answer the one about longevity that we started with, but didn't talk about?
Oh yeah, because a few other questions. I'll just share them real quick, and then you have all these questions in mind, and then you answer them all in one.
Okay.
Okay. One question was changing your lifestyle to fit God's. How did you do this, and how do you make it look so easy? Another person just said, go deep, too much of the same content, surface conversations and how-tos. I think honestly, I think that sounds like a personal preference type thing.
Yeah.
You know, you find the content that you're looking for online, and that might not be this podcast, but there'll be one that works for you. And then longevity and faithfulness to God despite disappointment. So I think longevity and faithfulness and changing your lifestyle to fit God's, and maybe it looks like we make it look easy. So that can help.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think that's kind of person to say that we make it look easy.
No. Yeah.
Like that's encouraging, but I don't think that it doesn't feel easy.
No.
You know?
No.
Like it definitely doesn't. You know, I know for me, like I don't just wake up and be like, man, I'm waking up and I'm already waking up praying and reading my Bible and like I'm just so spiritual. Like it's still a struggle. It's like going to the gym, you know? It's just something that you kind of, when you don't feel like it, you just have to do it. And then afterwards you're like, man, I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad I pushed myself through that. Yeah. So I think when it comes to changing your lifestyle, you know, I think it's a daily discipline, you know, and we're not always going to get it right. Yeah. I think certain days we can do better than others. Like I think Nick Saban had said this. He's like a coach and does a lot of leadership stuff and whatever. But he said, you know, to be better today than you were yesterday, and then be better tomorrow than you were today. And that's something that I try to live by that. Yeah. I try to, you know, and we don't always get it right. But I think just having that mentality of it's not, I'm not looking at a year from now being like, okay, I need to get there, you know, have vision for your life, but it's going to be a day by day thing. You know, Rome was not built in a day. It was built day by day, you know, brick by brick. And it takes that time. And over time, like those small 1% changes, it adds up and it makes a big difference. So I think when it comes to changing your lifestyle, don't try to change it overnight. It happens over time, and it's you're not going to get to the place that God has called you to be. One, you never arrive. No. So there's always going to be something to work on, something to work out. But I think that it's going to take a lot of time to just get there. So one, enjoy the journey of that life change and God working in your life and the progression of it and the growth. But don't expect to be this like perfect product, because that doesn't exist, you know? And I think just take it one day at a time and identify some areas of I need to be better in this. I want to grow in this spot or think differently here. Yeah. And then pray and ask God, would you help me to think differently? Would you help me to look at this differently? Would you help me to have a better mindset or a better attitude or whatever it is? God, help me to make me look more like you. I think that's a great prayer, because sometimes if you're like, God, I don't know what I need to work on, there's either so much where I don't know where to start, or it's like, I feel like I'm okay and I don't like, show me the small things that I need to adjust, you know, but just pray that prayer. God, if there's anything that doesn't belong in me, remove it. Help me to look more like you, you know? And I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that, but I think when it comes to like the longevity, I think it actually ties into that question, you know, longevity, how we have faithfulness and longevity in God is what Eugene Peterson always had said or had coined. I got you. You feel an eyelash? I think so. Thank you. You're welcome. But it's like what he coined, and correct me if I word it wrong, but it's like a long obedience in the same direction. That's it. Right? Yes. And to me, that like when I heard that, I was like, that's That's what I needed.
Yes.
That just
Me
puts
too.
it into words.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a long obedience,
That's right.
staying faithful in the same direction over time.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that it's easy. I think longevity is so much more rare nowadays.
It is.
In every part of life.
In every area. Yeah.
It's like staying faithful to what God's called you to do, and staying faithful to relationships, and saying, all of those things.
Your marriage, to your
it's
friendships,
so rare,
to your calling.
But I think, again, just realize it's a day by day process.
That's it. That is so true.
What would you say to those questions?
Yeah, I think when it comes to longevity, when it comes to longevity and just faithfulness to God, I think that it's just remembering every day that God is not scared of my mess. Yeah. There's nothing I can do that can separate me from the love of God. And that is a promise in the Word of God. So on the day that I feel the most shame and the most pain for maybe decisions I've made or things I've done, on my worst day, like, God is ready to welcome me with open arms. And it says in the Bible that He forgets our sins as far as the east is from the west. Yeah. And so I think longevity, what helps you stay consistent and live that life of a long obedience over time, like Eugene Peterson says, is knowing that there is nothing that can separate me from the love of God. Right. And so every morning I wake up is a chance for me to recommit to walking through life with Jesus. Even if I've made a horrible mistake, even if I've gone way off the path, even if I'm finding myself way lost on the journey and I'm wondering, how the heck did I get here? Mm-hmm. Like, it's worth the long journey, right. And journeys are bumpy. They have twists, they have turns. Sometimes you find yourself in a ditch. Sometimes you find yourself on a smooth, clear path. Sometimes you can see really clearly, and sometimes you've got to look through a forest and the bush and the trees and figure out where am I going? But as long as I'm living life submitted to Jesus, surrendered to Jesus, I'm going to find myself 5, 10, 15, 20 years into my faith and look back and think, wow, I can't believe I made it this far. I was just focused on where I'm going. And now I'm looking back and realizing, wow, I have been following Jesus for 2 years or for 5 years or for 10 years. Right. And I think that's the same as going on that journey. You realize, whoa, I just walked 5 miles. I didn't know I did. And so I think longevity is all about continuing to look at where you're going, knowing where you're walking. You have a sermon that I love that's about watching where you walk. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's basically about, can you give a little summary of it?
Basically it might be a point in a larger message. It's a point of a larger message. Yeah, but I think I made it into
watching where you walk.
But watch where you walk, because where you look, that's where you're going to walk.
That's it. Yeah. Where you look is where you walk, and where you walk is where you're going. Mm-hmm. There's no way to not acknowledge that. Where I'm walking is where I'm going. Where I'm looking is where I'm headed. And so I think longevity is probably watching where you walk, knowing where you walk. Yeah. So really good. These were amazing questions. I loved all the questions that came in, and there were even some that we didn't get to, but we'll keep dropping it on Instagram, and you guys ask your questions, DM us. I don't know how else, DM us, I guess.
Comment on Spotify, comment on YouTube, whatever.
Yeah. So
many different ways.
Yeah. You opened this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I'm closing. Yes. Okay. I was looking at you. I'm okay. But yes, this was a great episode. It was fun getting to talk together and answer your questions. And we're going to do this again some more every few episodes. Just do a Q&A, ask us a question. Wherever you're at, make sure you like this episode. If you're on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment. Share this with a friend who you think needs it. And also follow us on Instagram at For People Like You Podcast. We'll have it below in the link. If you live in Southwest Florida, check out City First Cape Coral. We'd love to see you on a Sunday or a first Wednesday. Have an amazing week. We'll see you on the next episode of For People Like You.